In Module 3, we see that one way to help students understand their readings is by doing a chapter walk. In the chapter walk, the teacher goes through how textbook chapters are organized and how to read them to effectively gather information. This is helpful because not all students have the same level of familiarity with the type of text that is required of them. This could cause issues if they're left to try to interpret them without guidance. Textbook walks provide a common platform so that all students can equally gather information effectively from the text. Here, I'm going to use a modified version of the technique to help students understand how to interpret scientific articles. While scientific articles are already difficult to understand because of the depth of vocabulary and content matter they contain, they can also be challenging because of their form. Scientific articles aren't formulated in the same way as any other type of text, and students require guidance to understand how to effectively gather information from them. Some of the uses of chapter walks are to review students' previous knowledge of how to interpret a text, to introduce a new type of text or a new way to read a type of text, to scaffold students' previous understanding of how to use a text and to help them expand their understanding so that they're able to gather more information more quickly and more effectively from the type of text. For this example, I'm only going to be exploring how to read the text portions of a scientific article because of time's sake. But there are many other portions of the scientific article that students are expected to be able to understand. These include graphics, tables, graphs, and other visual aids that students need to be able to interpret to be able to understand entirely what's happening in the scientific article. To do this chapter walk activity, I chose an article on teaching high school students how to write scientific papers. I chose this because it really has all of the necessary portions of the scientific article, and it's very easy for students to understand because it's written at a level for them. So the first step that students are going to need to understand the scientific article is to read the title. So the title is the portion that tells them what the article is about. The title may also include information about the findings of the study or experiment, but it doesn't necessarily contain that information. Students often aren't able to gather enough information from the title of a scientific article, so they often have to move on to step 2. The abstract is really the best part of the scientific article. It's a concise summary of everything that happens in the article and usually contains the conclusions of the article as well. Some abstracts are not as well written or may not contain the information that the student is looking for. In this case, they will have to move on to step 3. Step 3 is to look at the discussion of the paper, which is usually at the end. The discussion section has all of the results of the study and the implications of the results that they found, so usually students find what they're looking for in this section, and they don't have to read through the entire article to find what they're looking for. Usually students can stop at this step of reading the scientific article because they find the information that they're looking for. However, if they need more, they can move on to step 4. The introduction of the paper contains more background information on the subject, as well as other studies that give us previous information on this type of study. Students may look here if they're looking to find another source that's similar, or if they want to know more about the study. If students still haven't found the information that they're looking for in the introduction, they can move on to the materials, methods, and results. Both of these sections are not usually necessary for a secondary student to read to understand the article, but they do give information on how to replicate the experiment. So if students are curious about how the experiment was done, they can look in this section. So I hope that you found this tutorial on how to use chapter walks very informative and that you can now use them in your classroom to help students develop their understanding.